Hello guys, and welcome to a new Division 2 video today by me, Vulcan. In this one I have for you a 3 versus 3 on Valley of Death, and I'm going to be playing with the 43rd Reserve Army. That's right, finally showing off this recently added map to Division 2. It's an absolutely awesome map, to be honest, with lots of interesting terrain elements. You've got sort of the town in the center here, you've got some more open ground on the far right, and for me today I'm going to be playing over the forests on the left. So starting off with an IL-2 KR, this is a recon IL-2, which does have some pretty good cannons for ground strafing, but just trying to get a lay of the land early on and see if I'm getting contested into my side of the forest here. But I do manage to get my 45 mils and Maxims into position, and those have just been spread out to cover each of the roads that are heading towards the objectives on my side of the valley. Then I'm going to be offensively pushing with a couple of Stravniki officers on the left hand side, and we're going to be following that up with a BA-10M and two T-34-85s. So Panzergrens there, easy target for the IL-2 strafing run, and the Yak going to be looking for the kill onto the Jagdpanzer at the start of the game. Don't quite manage to kill it, but certainly did a decent amount of damage. Thanks to the IL-2 I was able to spot that early on, and now we're going to be engaging the PaK-38, which should have a hard time penetrating the T-34-85s in the front armor, so just going to be continuing to fire HE at that and pin it down and hopefully kill it off while the BA-10M rushes forwards to finish off the Panzergrens there. So on this right hand side I did also bring up a Stravniki officer, and you can see, yeah, just kind of spreading out across this front, making sure all of these roads are covered, because there are a lot of roads that you can use to attack in this map, and there's a lot of spawn points too. You can see on the back side of the map so many spawn points. You can attack from so many different places, and one thing that's really cool about this map I've found is you can kind of swing to different parts of the map very quickly due to all of the straight roads. So if you get bogged down on one side, you can quickly change and go for like another flanking attack somewhere else. Really, really cool. BA-10M unfortunately going to get picked off by that Jagdpanzer, but here comes the T-34. We're going to be engaging it with our T-34-85s. It's a captured German T-34. We're going to be playing up against the Fallschirmpanzer Hermann Göring. Probably my favourite Axis division, actually. We managed to get the crew kill there, the APCR shots from the T-34-85s. Getting that crit. Now the APCR shells in Division 2 much more likely to crit than your standard AP shell. So you can use that to your advantage, particularly if you're up against heavier targets. The Jagdpanzer still in my way, and that will certainly be difficult for the T-34-85s to deal with. I am somewhat confident that the APCR will finish that off, but we're just going to go for the safe bet of using the Yak-9. Unfortunately for me, the Yak-9 is going to pull towards the SDKZ-71, so I'm actually going to fly the IL-2 purposefully towards it so that the AA changes target. Now, unless my opponent purposefully right-clicks the Yak-9B, it will automatically change target once the Yak-9B is fully forced back, like fully falling back. So that worked out really well. I managed to keep the Yak-9B alive. I also managed to get a really cheeky snipe with a T-34-85 onto the SDKZ-71. So I am liking my position right now. T-34-85 hoping to reload and kill the Marder before it can get its shot off, but unfortunately the gun jam there, very unfortunate for me. I've turned off the APCR this time around to make sure that we can kill the Marder, but the Stravniki actually gets the job done with the PTRD in the end, and is now going to do some damage to the 233, allowing the T-34-85 to get the one-shot, although it would one-shot anyway because he's only have 8 health. So these T-33s, we're slowly cutting them down. I've got a reinforcing T-34-85 on the way already, so losing that one isn't too much of a problem. Now, I do ideally want to have at least 2 at all times, so that if I'm engaging something like a Jagdpanzer again, then I can double team it and make sure that I'm firing 2 shots at once, rather than like firing, reloading, firing again, because that gives them a chance to fire back if you are looking for the ambushing shot. Su-85. Nice easy kill. Really, really big fan of the Su-85. It's probably one of my favorite Soviet units. It's very, very reliable and really good value for money. So 70 points, Su-85, 50% accuracy, give it a little bit of veterancy, and that's going way up. You can use the APCR shells with 180mm of penetration to really take on some big targets. It's very, very nice indeed. So Stravniki managed to make their way across. They're still both alive. One of them's falling back because it just got hit by a Grilla. I'm hoping that my T-34-85s can push forwards here and spot the Grilla, but I don't want to advance too much because we have no idea what could be in this light cover. Now, if there's an AT gun there and I overstep, basically my T-34-85s will be left out in the open with no cover to retreat to, and then both of them would die. So that would be really bad. So I'm just going to let my Stravniki move up here, capture this flag, and that's going to put us 14-10 as Grim Guy here is making good progress in the town with his 8th Cavalier Putata. So, IL-2 hanging out on the left again, trying to look for more opportunities for my Yak-9 because the Yak-9 is ready to go again. And we did take out the SD2 so I'm really hoping that I can utilize those Yak-9s continuously for as long as possible at the start of the game, because the Yak-9s after sort of like the mid to late game sort of fall off pretty hard because you end up having to deal with much more AA, and also enemy fighters will be bought. In this case, SDKFZ-71 has been purchased to replace the one that was lost, so the IL-2 forced out for the time being, and no Yak-9 strike going to be coming in. So Pak-38 doesn't really have too much of a chance to kill the T-34-85 here, but I don't really want to tempt fate when I can just let the Stravniki engage with the 3 DPs, so that's what I went for in the end. And you can see my infantry here starting to spread out. I've also brought in the Maxim 45mm gun combination here to hold the low ground in case any units come in from this side and try and sort of cut across. The same reason that I still have all of these units in position. I don't want these to be on the edge of the hill, because it would then allow them to be targeted by units opposite. These have quite a short range, so generally better for me to just hold them back and let them fire at units that would potentially come up on my side. Grilla, really good hit there onto the Avtostravniki. These Avtostrafs are really, really rough squads to deal with on the opposing side. 15 strength submachine gun shock squads. Really, really good at close range. So his Grilla stopping them from getting into cover is really, really good for him. I'm trying to get the T-34 into a position to engage that. You see both of them trying to creep forwards as much as possible. Straf's trying to take control of those buildings. Got a couple of BA-10Ms coming up as well so that we have some decent recon, because the 43rd Reserve does kind of struggle for recon. It also struggles for AA, and that's the other big weakness of this division. So Stravniki officer moving forwards does find the Avkada there. So good we cleaned that out. It will remove the recon information on our forces on the front line here. I've got a couple T-34-76s arriving that are going to be able to back up the T-34-85s. I want to make sure that I can kill this T-34 that's on the low ground, because we kind of want to try and get rid of these 2 units so that maybe I can push and grab this flag further to the right. Because this is the only offensive flag that we can really grab here. If we want to try and cut off the spawn, it's going to be very difficult because we're pushing through trees. So not really very viable. Pak-38 looking for the shot onto the BA-10M. Did stop to fire because it spotted the Hermann-Göring Pioneers and it ends up getting itself killed. Stravniki are under fire, which means that they have been spotted as well. Most likely by this Me-410 that's flying overhead. Now the T-34 did try to retreat from the 45mm, almost into line of sight of a shot from the Su-85, but the Su-85 unfortunately missing. Now what I'm going to do instead is just kind of send my Su-85 on the left down to engage that. The other 2 T-34s are coming up onto that left-hand side just to hold the line here. So now Yak-9 coming in. I knew that I'd killed the SDKZ-71 on the right-hand side, and we saw the one on the left, so it's unlikely there's going to be one here to stop me from bombing this AT gun. So we're going in for it. and I'm just about managed to dodge the Focke-Wulf's cannons as it comes in to intercept. So Yak-9 flying away at low altitude, not going to give a chance for that Focke-Wulf to turn around. Meanwhile, the Avtos absolutely deleting the Hemmergirding Pioneers at close range before they manage to get their close range grenade off. That is the one counter to these Avtostrafs, is they can kind of be outmatched by specialist close range infantry, particularly like flamethrowers and the grenades there, but you do have a chance against the grenades at least, so that is something that allowed those 15 men to absolutely ruin that squad before the grenade got thrown. But there goes the units in the valley. The Panzergrenz taken care of, the T-34 taken care of. I did unfortunately take a penetration on the T-34-85, but this is enabling me to move pretty aggressively now towards this second flag on the far side here. McShab's still hanging about with his fighter is going to make it difficult for me to provide air support. And here comes Navarro with the Ju-87 G2. Does take out one of my T-34-85s, unfortunately. Not really much chance for me to deal with that. The only AA I'm going to be having throughout the game is the 85 mils and also my LA7. So I'm going to be bringing in the LA7 to go deep for the Ju-87. And the IL-2s here might be able to help deal with the Focke-Wulf 190. The Focke-Wulf 190 does come in for the Yak-9B and does end up managing to do quite a lot of damage to that, but the LA7 now able to finish off the Ju-87, so we won't have to worry about that one. And I've got a new Yak-9 coming in. It manages to turn really well, gets onto the back of the Focke-Wulf. This Yak-9 on the left there goes too deep and actually gets caught out by the SDKF Z7-1. But that's some good kills, like Focke-Wulf going down, taking out the Ju-87. He will have a couple of more Ju-87 AT planes to work with, but killing those off and making sure that we don't see that one again is pretty important. So now coming in with the Yak-9, hoping to get cluster on target of the SDKF Z7-1. Unfortunately, not able to do so. IL-2 coming in for the strafing run afterwards as well, just trying to overwhelm the AA there, but manages to fend off both of my units and the Panzer IVs that have now come in with this high veterancy, managing to take out T-34-85 at close range. Now, Panzer IVs for me, when I'm using T-34-85s, is really bad, because Panzer IVs cost like 75 points, whereas the T-34-85s costs a little bit more, they're like 95 points, and so the Panzer IVs can still kill T-34s at close range very easily, and so they trade really, really well, and that is something that Navarro can potentially leverage to get back in this game. I'm hoping my 45mm though can capitalize on the weaker armor of the Panzer IV, as another Ju-87 comes in and takes care of one of my T-34-76s. My 85mm only just arrived, and you can see that they are very lackluster as AA. It is my only AA option though, so I'm kind of forced to use it. Ju-87 does get forced back at least, and the 45mm did take out the Panzer IV. So whilst I have lost my T-34-85s now, and one of my T-34-76s, we're at least stopping the counter-attack for the time being. But Navarro is certainly getting into a good position here. The Strafniki managed to take care of the Panzergrenz at close range, so that was good. But yeah, these Panzer IVHs are going to continuously cause problems as they continue to advance. Strafniki there getting a cheeky PTRD shot into the Grille. Actually managed to land a second as well. You can see that I'm jumping it forwards and backwards to try and get the kill. Unfortunately, that bounce does mean that the Grille is going to escape for the time being, and the Strafniki on the right-hand side are taken out. So, game on, as my foothold on the far side of the valley has been depleted, and I'm going to be forced to bring in the IS-2. I'm also thinking of ways to utilize my air force, because I have invested into quite a lot of aircraft, so making use of them throughout the game is going to be kind of important to make sure that I leverage any advantage that I've created in terms of kills. Strafniki do manage to take care of one Valkyr, but three Valkyr Maybe just a little bit too much for the Stravniki here. If that was a full 20 strength squad, then it might have actually had a chance of winning that engagement, but unfortunately already whittled down. 85 melt, also going to engage in ground targets when it's in range. So hoping to take out the Panzer IV, we do manage to do so. But we're now bringing over the MU-410 once again to provide recon information, but we're able to force that back pretty quickly this time. LA-7 also going to be purchased to try and run it down. The LA-7 really fast, 645 km/h speed. Don't see it too often. The dual 20mm, not exactly the pinnacle of firepower, and so it does kind of let it down, but a very agile fighter, as you can see, able to escape from that AA. And my IL-2 doesn't need to be there for too long to realize that there is two now Flakvillings in position, putting pressure onto my aircraft. So that's going to really try and force the way that I play this. So that's why I'm starting to really crutch on these IS-2 1943s. We're bringing up plenty more infantry that I can potentially push through the Valkyr and the Panzer IVs with. Now the Panzer IVs will really struggle to kill the IS-2s at close range, so I'm hoping that the second wave can kind of bully Navarro into submission. The main thing that he's going to have to use against the IS-2s is his Sturmtiger. So yeah, probably one of my favorite reasons that I like the Hermann-Göring Fallschirmpanzer Hermann-Göring is because of the Sturmtiger 380mm rocket that it can fire. Absolutely insane. I just got to be a bit careful here to not let infantry get too close, because those AT grenades at the Valkyr, or magnetic mines I guess, that they carry will kill an IS-2 if they get too close. Stravniki able to keep back a Panzergren that was probing on the right hand side. So whilst it did kind of suck getting pushed off the ridge, Navarro did a great job, but I'm still relatively happy with my position here, and we're preparing now, as I mentioned, for the next attack. So we've got the two IS-2s in position, just keeping them on the edge of the hill. Do have to be a little bit worried about gun depression potentially, but as soon as my infantry is in position and we can push through this light cover, the IS-2s should be safe to move up. Otherwise we do have to be worried about Panzerschrecks and such. And there's the first of the shots coming in from the Sturmtiger. My poor IS-2, very damaged by that, will back off. It's only going to take, I think, 2 hits from a Sturmtiger to kill an IS-2 1943, just because of the sheer amount of HE damage that it does. Now, one thing I was thinking I could get away with was bringing in the Su-152s. So we're going to bring in a bunch of Su-152s that can sit on my side of the valley and fire across and engage infantry on the other side. Ju-87 coming in there does do a decent amount of damage to the IS-2, but is forced away before it can get a kill. So it wasn't too bad, but both my IS-2s now much more vulnerable to being attacked by the Sturmtigers. So we're going to have to be careful about that. But Stravniki officers now continuing their push. I'm going to try and keep these Stravniki Komroti out of the engagement for the time being, so that I can maintain the extra veterancy on these troops. But with the Sturmtiger rounds coming in, you can see that it is constantly pinning down my Stravniki. But this time it didn't catch the IS-2. So the IS-2 going to wheel up and potentially take a shot at the Sturmtiger. Does have 200mm of penetration at this range. There's a decent chance we can kill the Sturmtiger. It only takes 1 penetration for us to do so. So that's kind of what the engagement we want to be. Wait for the Sturmtiger to fire whilst it's reloading, pounce on it with the IS-2, and hopefully kill it off. And then he's going to be backing up every time that he fires, come forwards when he's reloaded, and fire off another round, as you can see there. So Navarro actually sneaking further forwards with the Panzer IVs now. And that is going to make it very difficult for my Stravniki to make ground, because a 3-vet Panzer IV still has like 2 MG34s that are going to be doing a lot of damage. So whilst I'm making this push, I'm going to be bringing in the IL-4s. And we're going to be splitting those so they can drop their 2 500kg bombs on the backside of the light cover. We're going to bring in the IL-2s at the same time, as well as the Yak-9s. Now, in terms of AA priority, they will always shoot bombers first. So these fighter bombers coming in at the same time is really good, because it allows you to target enemy AA, while the IL-2s kind of soak. And both the IL-2s are actually going to get their bombs off in this situation, and the Yak is going to have time to come through with the cluster on the backside and actually take out the SDK Z71. IL-2s also coming in for the strafing run onto the second SDK Z71, and that was the only 2 AA units that he had. So now the second IL-2 is going to be able to come in and finish that off with a strafing run. The poor SDK Z7 panicked and running away as that IL-2 comes in. And now look at it. The IL-2 going to be spotting the Hummels here. We're going to be spotting the mortars. And I'm basically just buying everything I can to take full advantage of this moment where there is no AA to be seen. Sturmpioneer coming out in the open there, getting absolutely toasted by the Su-152. Yak-9Bs going for the bombing strikes onto the Sturmtiger to potentially try and kill that. The IS-2s now pushing forwards. Stravniki managed to clear out the light cover. Things going really, really well as we make that set play with the airstrike. Now LA7 coming in to help out as well. Hummel going to get strafed by the IL-2. Second one coming in to try and finish that off. And if we can take out a Hummel, that's 125 points down the drain that Nabarro is not going to be able to use, and another way that he would have potentially been able to kill the IS-2s taken care of. Now a new flak filling has appeared on the backside, so the LA7 going to pull away from the dive onto the Hummel to make sure it doesn't get shot down. Whilst that was going on, I did end up losing one of my IS-2s here, but IL-4 and Yak-9 now coming in for the bombing strike onto the Sturmtiger. But Nabarro, he reacted quickly. He got an 88 into position as well as that flak filling. So both my IL-4 and Yak-9B are going to be falling back. So IS-2 now going to be trying to creep up and take care of that Panzer IV for me. But the Sturmtigers still elusive and managing to stay alive, and we aren't controlling this flag anymore, so still only 13 to 11, but the tick has been carrying on the entire time thanks to Grim Guy's offensive plays on the right hand side. And the Su-152 is coming into their own now as well, sitting in a very nice position. Just kind of need recon here, honestly, to make sure that I see any infantry that try and come out of that tree line. But good kill onto the Panzer IV. You can see the Sturmtiger turning to engage the IS-2 in the light cover. Managed to reverse away from that in time. Stravniki pushing forwards, but I'm going to be trying to get the IS-2 to drive forwards far enough that it can engage the Sturmtiger and potentially kill that off, but the Sturmtiger fast enough to reverse into cover. So it's a bit of a game of cat and mouse between the IS-2s and the Sturmtigers. Really makes all the difference. Keeping those Sturmtigers alive for Nabarro because he can continuously harass our push. I'm hoping maybe I can take out the Grilla at least. Unfortunately, the IS-2 missed in that case. But you see the side of the map, actually really, really fun to play over on Valley of Death. I do have another gameplay to show where I'm playing over the right-hand side of the map, so we'll have a look at that another time. But I really do like the way that these flags are in the valley here. And the fact that pushing into them is incredibly risky. That's why you might be wondering, why aren't I pushing on these flags here? Well, imagine being down in this valley and there being like AT guns and all of this heavy cover around the edge of the ridge. Like, it's going to be very, very difficult to reliably hold those flags under fire. So Stravniki going to attempt to try and push up the left-hand side. Unfortunately, the Grilla still causing me issues. Like the long-range HE was actually the biggest problem in this game. And you see that there taking effect as the Guerrilla forces back the Stravniki that would have otherwise really beat the Valkyr at that range. A new IS-2 on the way for me. I've moved up one of the Su-152s to the left to help with anti-infantry. This IS-2 is looking for the Guerrilla kill and does finally find it. Zapoli also coming in to help out. So just gotta try and build up another push really. Wait for my planes to be ready so we can make another strike. Because I do, again, have a lot invested in my planes, so making sure that I continue to gain value from them is super important, even if I already have, because that way I can continue to gain an advantage. A little bit of a push from Navarro coming in further to the right. Navarro doing a good job of sort of trying to probe the defenses elsewhere, but in this case, Grim Guy going to spot that coming, bring up a couple of Turan 2s, which should be able to easily deal with enemy infantry. Stravniki finding and engaging the Valkyr there. Motorazvedka now moving with the IS-2. But I see a really good opportunity here. IS-2 against the Sturmtiger. Unfortunately, the IS-2, you can see how bad the optics are on this thing. I have to move over the recon Motorazvedka so that I can actually see the Sturmtiger, because the IS-2 can't see it. And the Sturmtiger does fire, but I'm close enough for a penetration. Unfortunately, it's going to be a miss. And the Ju-87 coming in there to kill that off straight afterwards. A frustrating miss for me with that IS-2. But admittedly, I should be having a leader there to make sure that these IS-2s are hitting the mark. I like a commander-leader combination, having maybe a commander here, and then just having a leader across the valley would have allowed me to have like a 2-vet IS-2 there, which would have been a really good idea. Anyway, we're setting up again, sending in the bombers in first, got the fighter bombers coming in secondary, with the IL-2s in the rear, and that way, you know, the priority means that the IL-4s get hit first, the Yak-9s can then target the enemy AA, and the IL-2s can strafe anything that's left. So IL-4s, unfortunately not quite reaching the mark this time. There's way more AA than I anticipated, but we're managing to get some bombs off here onto those 88s. So I do manage to pin that one, and we're going to be strafing it straight afterwards. Also going to be looking for the strafe onto the SDK Z71, but no successful kills this time around. Yak-9B, I'm going to tell it to leave. And since not much ordnance was spent, all of those aircraft should recover pretty quickly. But yeah, not managing to kill much of this AA is pretty rough, because that was an almost entirely like wasted airstrike. Our Ju-87's coming over here from Grim Guy, just to try and clean up some of these vehicles. But the Turan 2 already doing a good job there. I'm going to be moving up the Sapori to go and try and capture these flags. We're going to be going down the valley, trying to get into these buildings as well. Just try and secure a solid lead. Now I'm going to be able to sit here on the edge, out of line of sight, and put pressure on that flag. So that's what we're doing there. And on this side, we're just trying to get through the Panzergrenz in order to capture the flag further to the side. But there goes the Sturmtiger as I finally, with veterancy, look at that, I'm able to get the Sturmtiger. So finally get the commander in and the leader, give the IS-2 2-vet, make sure it doesn't miss the Sturmtiger at close range. Second Sturmtiger is still alive, but killing one of them is a huge swing for me, as killing the second would open up the way for the IS-2s to be completely dominant in this engagement. Now I managed to move forwards the Su-152 and get a shot on the Panzergrenz. Unfortunately, the Tiger does manage to penetrate the Su-152, but it's done its job. It's allowed the Sapori to move up and get the pin, so that's now going to secure us the flag on the low ground. Su-152 up here, meanwhile, is harassing the Panzer IV. So we're now taking 2 offensive flags. On the right-hand side, Matador has actually managed to get to his offensive flag, which is actually kind of difficult on this map because this right-hand side's so open. The flags are really far back. So getting all the way up there, really good job by Matador. But now looking for the second Sturmtiger. The Sturmtiger putting itself in a very precarious position. IS-2 moving up for the second shot. And there it is. Second Sturmtiger down. Really, really going to open up the game for our infantry to continue pushing forwards. You can see I've got a couple of superior docks just to be annoying in the left-hand side as well. When we're taking both of these flags, I can potentially push up and cover this flag now, because I'll have the 2k advantage as well as the 2k HE advantage as well as the AP advantage from the IS-2. So you can see the IS-2 coming across here with that veterancy, hitting the mark. One shot, one kill. You'll love to see it. Now coming in for the 5 IL-4s. You can see I'm purposefully spreading them out before I go in for the strike. And the reason that I'm doing that is to make sure that the splash of the 88s and the SDKF Z71s aren't basically stopping me from getting the strikes through. Because if these were all close together, one 88 hitting the first IL-4 would cause the other ones to also fall back. So multiple IL-4s coming in, looking for the bombing strikes onto enemy AA here, just to try and shut it down a bit. So I managed to get the bombs off of the AK-9Bs, which is good. I also managed to kill the SDK-71, which is huge. IL-2 is going to be strafing down the Flak 37 there. LA-7 also coming in for the strafe. There is a BF-109, but that's going to get forced back by my 85mm. And unfortunately we didn't do too much damage with that engagement, but we at least pinned down the AA enough, and once the BF-109's dealt with, we can potentially kill off the remaining 88s. But it is coming to a close now, the game, as we move into the last few seconds. JUD7, I managed to reverse out of the way of that one in time, and after 32 minutes and 5 seconds, that's going to be victory for our team. 3,165 kills to 1,495 losses. Nibiru put up a fantastic fight, pushing me off that ridge entirely at one point. Really, really good job. But we managed to pull together the IS-2s and get back up there, and the airstrikes really, really coming in handy. So I thought that was a really, really fun battle to watch, especially with the airplay in there, as well as the engagement between the IS-2s and the Sturmtigers. Really, really cool stuff. Valley of Death, had a lot of fun on this map so far. But that's all for now. Hopefully you guys have enjoyed it. Let me know what you think of this map in the comments, and I'll see you in the next video. Goodbye.